Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I was halfway through pouring myself a cup of coffee when Mom let out her yearly squeal like she just won a damn Oscar. "Oh, Jenna, open that one next." "Yes, that one." "No, not that. That. You're gonna love it." It was the same every Christmas morning. Her hair done like she was on a talk show, robe cinched tight like it was tailored. Dad sat in his recliner, one leg crossed, nodding at the chaos like he'd built it all with his bare hands. And Jenna, golden child, family darling, miracle second act, was in the center of it, cross-legged in her silk pajama set, cheeks flushed with fake surprise. I stood behind the arm of the couch, coffee in hand, watching her untie the red ribbon from a tiny velvet box. She gasped. "Is this your house key?" Mom clapped her hands. "To the condo in Charlotte. It's officially yours now." "You bought her a whole place?" I asked, louder than I meant. Dad didn't look up. It was time. "She's been working so hard," Mom added. "She deserves her own space." Jenna stood to hug them, key still in hand. "You guys are insane." "I can't believe this." My cup was still half full. No one noticed. Quick note, before we keep going, share which city or country you're watching from. Eventually, Dad held out a plain white envelope in my direction. No tag, no bow. Just here. I peeled it open with the edge of my nail. Inside was a black and white printout. No card, no note. Just a job listing. Local office assistant, hourly wage circled in blue. He raised his eyebrows. "Thought this might be more your speed." "You've been looking, right?" Mom glanced at me. "Oh, that's thoughtful." "It's something to get you going again." I nodded once and slid it back in. My stomach tightened. They hadn't asked what I wanted for Christmas. No one had in years. When I was 10, Jenna got a karaoke machine and a custom cake with edible glitter. I got a secondhand sweater 2 sizes too big and a quick pat on the shoulder. At 16, I made the honor roll every semester. Dad said nice without looking up from his laptop. When Jenna passed her driver's test on the 3rd try, they threw her a backyard BBQ with banners. Now I was 29, standing in my parents' living room, being handed a Craigslist ad while Jenna got real estate. I dropped the envelope on the side table, grabbed my coat off the railing, and stepped out into the freezing driveway without a word. The cold hit me like a slap when I stepped outside, but I didn't go far. Just stood by my car, letting the quiet sting a little. I wasn't even mad. That was the worst part. I was just tired. I sat behind the wheel, engine off, watching my breath fog up the windshield. And right there, just sitting in my own damn driveway, the memories started coming like static. When I turned 13, I asked for a pizza party with 3 friends. Mom said it was too much to plan. That same year, Jenna had a sleepover with 14 girls, matching pajamas, a bounce house, and handmade invitations tied with ribbon. "Jenna's more social," Mom told me when I asked why. "You don't like crowds anyway." She said it like it was a compliment, like I should be grateful I wasn't being put through the burden of a celebration. In high school, I brought home straight A's and a summer internship I got on my own. Dad glanced at the report card and said, "Keep it up." Jenna got a B- in algebra once and cried about it. 2 days later, she had a math tutor, a new pink calculator, and a note in her lunchbox that said, "You're our little genius." I never got a note. At 16, I got a part-time job at the grocery store to save for a car. Nobody offered help. Nobody asked how it was going. Jenna wrecked the family SUV 2 months after her license and still got her own used Volvo before prom. It wasn't even about the money. It was about the way they looked at her, like she was this fragile, glowing thing that needed to be protected. And me? I was just there. Graduation night still burns. My name was called for the Academic Excellence Award, top 5% of my class. I looked out over the crowd and saw Mom scrolling on her phone. Jenna wasn't even in the gym. She wasn't feeling well. After the ceremony, Mom handed me a gift bag from the dollar store. 1 card, no money, no flowers. She smiled and said, "You're not going to turn into one of those people who think a GPA means everything, right?" That was her way of keeping me humble. Senior year awards banquet, I remember I stayed up until 2, sewing a dress because we couldn't afford a new one. When I walked out of my room, Dad said, "You're not wearing that, are you?" Jenna laughed and said I looked like a leftover bridesmaid. And just like that, I changed back into jeans. Didn't even go. It wasn't just big things. It was the way they told Jenna she was creative for drawing a cat on a sticky note, while I got told my essays were a little too serious. It was how they bought her colored pencils and a whole desk when she said she wanted to get into design, while I wrote my college applications at the kitchen table during dinner prep. I used to tell myself I was the strong one, that I didn't need the applause, that I didn't want the spotlight, but I did. And every time they looked through me, every time I watched them bend over backward for her and toss me a bone like I should thank them for it, it carved something deep, something I carried without realizing it. It didn't make me bitter. Not exactly. It just made me quiet, careful, controlled. I stopped expecting anyone to cheer for me, and I learned to clap for myself in private. But that night, sitting in my car with the job listing still burning in my pocket like a joke that went too far, something in me cracked open. I started the engine and drove off without saying goodbye. 2 days later, she called. "I hate to ask this," Mom said, dragging out the words like she'd practiced them in a mirror, "but the gutters are full. Your father's back is acting up, and Jenna's slammed at work." I didn't say anything. We're not getting any younger, you know? This house doesn't clean itself. There it was, the guilt, served hot, with a sprinkle of porous on top. "Fine," I said. "I'll come by tomorrow." "Thank you, sweetheart." I knew you'd understand. She didn't ask if I had plans, didn't ask how I was doing, just hung up like the deal was done. The next morning, I pulled into their driveway just after 10. Same cracked bird bath, same faded flag hanging limp on the porch. The place hadn't changed a bit. Neither had the air inside. Stale, pine-scented candles and old furniture. "Don't take your shoes off, the floor's a mess," Mom called from the kitchen. "I've been meaning to vacuum, but you know how it is." She didn't get up from her chair, just pointed to the broom in the corner like I'd already been assigned. "Where's Dad?" "Resting. His back, remember?" "Jenna?" "Swamped. She's got 2 deadlines this week. Poor thing's barely sleeping, of course." I vacuumed the living room, scrubbed the downstairs bathroom, and climbed up the shaky aluminum ladder to clear the gutters, while Mom barked from below about doing it carefully. All day, I was a ghost in my own childhood home, useful but invisible. She trailed me with complaints, how expensive groceries were, how her hairdresser ruined her highlights, how Jenna was stressed from trying to do it all. I didn't say much, just kept moving, kept cleaning, kept nodding. Her voice filled the space like background noise I couldn't mute. Around 5, I offered to make dinner. "Oh no," she said, hand-waving me off. "Jenna left some frozen meals in the downstairs freezer. She picks such healthy stuff. You two should talk more. Maybe she could help you with nutrition." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. By 8, the house was clean. Mom kissed my cheek, told me I had such a good heart, and went off to take her bath. Dad never came downstairs. I never saw him. I sat on the living room couch for a while, staring at the blank TV. The lights were dim, the carpet still smelled like bleach. Nothing had changed. Not the house, not them, not me. I felt like a tool they pulled out of storage when something broke. By 10, I was lying on the old guest bed, wide awake. The silence was louder than the chores had been. I kept thinking about that job listing, about Jenna's condo, about how easy it all came to her. Sleep wouldn't come. I got up, walked barefoot through the dark hallway, and crept down the stairs. The air was cooler at night, and the silence was thick, the kind that wrapped around your neck and made you second-guess everything. I passed the kitchen. The light above the sink was still on. A pile of clean plates sat on the drying rack, the ones I'd washed hours earlier. Then I saw it. Dad's office door, usually locked up like Fort Knox, was cracked open. That door had been locked my whole life, always. I walked toward it slow, half expecting Dad to pop out from the shadows and bark at me to mind my business. But the hall was still dead quiet. The door creaked when I nudged it open. Just a couple inches, but enough to smell the old paper and stale air inside. His office was cleaner than I expected. Everything in its place, books in order, pens lined up, notepads stacked. It looked less like a workspace and more like a museum to a man who wanted control over everything. I didn't plan to go in. I really didn't. But my foot moved before my brain did. The light from the hallway barely reached the desk. I used my phone flashlight, scanning the room, careful not to bump anything. Then I saw it. The safe, in the corner, under the shelf. Heavy-duty, gray, keypad half-lit. But the key slot, it wasn't fully turned. He'd forgotten to lock it. I froze, Every instinct said walk away. But after years of being shut out, dismissed, handed scraps like that envelope with the damn job ad, something snapped. I crouched down, grabbed the handle, and pulled. It opened without a sound. Inside were rows of manila folders, neatly labeled in his handwriting. Tax documents, property records, retirement plans, all the boring stuff. But buried behind the rest was a sealed white envelope, thick and crisp, with one line on the front. In the event of my passing, to be opened by M&A. My initials in Dad's handwriting. I sat down on the floor right there and ripped it open. The first thing inside was a typed letter, dated almost 6 years ago. A bunch of legal jargon about trust management and estate division. But halfway down, I saw it. As sole property holder and account manager on behalf of Jenna, last name. Then came the copies, one after another. Property deeds, bank account setups, loan applications, all in my name. Except I'd never signed a single one of them. The handwriting wasn't even close to mine. My signature, forged, over and over. One file showed I purchased a small rental property outside Asheville. Another had me as co-signer on a business loan for a company Jenna started 3 years ago, one that failed within months. There were financial statements, IRS forms, title transfers, all tracked, itemized, folded with care. I wasn't a person in those files. I was a shell they used to get what they needed. There was even a life insurance policy where I was listed as a secondary beneficiary. Only if Jenna and both parents were deceased. Otherwise, I got nothing. I should have been shaking, crying, something. But I wasn't. I just felt still, like something had clicked into place. All the years of being dismissed, overlooked, told I wasn't enough. And meanwhile, behind locked doors, they were using my name to hold their house of cards together. No wonder they never cheered when I achieved anything. I was just paperwork. I was a fallback plan. I stood up, heart pounding now, stuffed the documents back into the envelope, and slid it under my hoodie. As I pulled the safe closed, I caught sight of the last folder I hadn't opened. It was labeled simply Lake House. I left it, not because I didn't care, but because I knew right then, deep in my gut, I'd be coming back. I eased the office door shut behind me, crept back up the stairs, and climbed into bed with the envelope tight in my arms like a loaded weapon. I didn't sleep, not really. Just stared at the ceiling, holding that envelope like it might disappear if I let go. By the time I heard the coffee pot sputter downstairs, I was already dressed. I tucked the envelope deep in my overnight bag and headed down like nothing was wrong. Mom was at the stove, flipping eggs like it was a damn cooking show. "Morning, sweetheart. You hungry?" "Yeah," I said, flat. Dad was at the table with the paper, glasses low on his nose. Same plaid robe he wore every morning for the last 20 years. He didn't look up. I sat across from him, kept my hands in my lap so they wouldn't shake. "You should have seen the update Jenna sent last night," Mom said, sliding eggs onto plates. "Her team's finally pitching that lifestyle brand to investors. She's working so hard," I nodded. "She's flying to New York next week. Can you believe that?" You know, I always knew she was going to be big. Just had that spark. Even as a baby, I forced a smile. "Yeah, she's doing great." Dad grunted something into his coffee. That was his version of joining the conversation. Mom sat beside him, chin resting on her hand like she was daydreaming about Jenna's success. "You know, I really think she's going to make something out of that business. She just needs the right people around her." I took a bite of eggs I couldn't taste. "Anyway, how's your search going?" she asked, too sweet, like she was reading off a script she didn't believe in. "Still looking," I said. "Taking my time." She gave me a little head tilt. "Well, something will come along. As long as you stay realistic about your options." There it was. That sharp edge under her voice wrapped in concern. I kept my face blank. Kept chewing? They didn't know. Not yet. They were sitting 2 feet from me, and not 1 ounce of them suspected I'd opened that safe. Seen what they'd done, read every damn line. It was almost impressive. Mom reached for the orange juice. "We'll probably have to visit Jenna next month." She said she might need help furnishing the condo. "I bet she does," I said. She didn't catch the tone, or pretended not to. We finished breakfast in silence, plates scraped. Dad folded his paper and wandered off without a word. Mom hugged me at the door like she was proud of me for showing up. "You're such a help when you're home." "Yeah," I said. "I know." I got in the car and pulled out of the driveway without looking back. My hands gripped the wheel tight as I hit the main road. That envelope was burning a hole in my bag, but I didn't touch it. Not yet. I had a plan to make. And this time, I wasn't telling anyone a damn thing. The second I walked through my front door, I dropped my bag, locked it behind me, and went straight to my laptop. I hadn't even taken off my coat. I pulled up one of those credit report sites and paid for the full breakdown, all 3 bureaus. Then I waited, heart thudding in my throat, while the wheels spun. When the report loaded, I sat back and stared. There it was. Mortgage, open, $212,000. Asheville, North Carolina. Investment account, $18,700. Owner, MNA. Business loan, $45,000. Closed. Cosigner, MNA. My stomach flipped. The Asheville property wasn't just in my name. It had been purchased 3 years ago. The loan was closed out 2 years ago. And the investment account, open, active, with quarterly transfers from a joint fund. I'd never seen a dime. They'd been doing this for years. And I hadn't noticed because I'd trusted them to leave me alone. I screenshotted everything, every page. Then I called Erin. We weren't close anymore, but she was one of the few people from college who didn't treat me like a sob story. She went into corporate law and knew her way around financial filings. "Hey," I said when she answered. "I need help, and I need it to stay between us." "Okay. Are you in trouble?" "No," I said, "but I think someone used my name to commit fraud. Maybe a few people. My family." I emailed her the screenshots. She was quiet for a long time after opening them. "Jesus," she finally muttered. "This isn't just fraud. This is identity theft. You could press charges. You'd win." I didn't say anything. Erin kept scrolling. "Wait. Hold up. Do you see this loan? The one tied to the lake house?" "What?" She clicked through the documents. "This property's under a second mortgage. Taken out 5 years ago. In your name, again. But the money didn't go to the house. It went to a business account under Jenna's name." I blinked. The lake house is mortgaged? Not just mortgaged, it was used to pull equity for her LLC, that wellness brand or whatever she tried to launch. It failed, obviously, and unless someone's been paying the mortgage from your accounts, you're on the hook. I rubbed my forehead. They used me to borrow against the lake house? Yep. I closed my eyes. That place was their pride and joy. Summer weekends, family barbecues, mom's favorite view. And now it was in my name, with their debt wrapped around it. "I can file something," Erin said. "We can freeze accounts, open a criminal case, get restitution. But it's gonna blow up your whole family." I opened my eyes. "No," I said. "Not yet." "Why not?" "You've got a case. Hell, you've got evidence." "I don't want payback," I said. "I want leverage." She was quiet. "You can help me set up something, right?" I asked. "A company or whatever. Something that can hold assets in my name but keep me protected." "Yeah, sure. But what are you planning?" "I'm going to take back what they used me for," I said. "But I'm going to do it legal. Clean. No drama." Erin gave a low whistle. "You've changed." "I haven't," I said. "I'm just finally done playing dumb." We ended the call, and I sat there for a minute, phone in my lap, laptop screen still glowing. I wasn't angry. I was focused. They wanted to use me as paper. Fine. I'd play that game better than they ever could. By the end of the week, Erin had the paperwork ready. We registered the holding company under a generic name, White Elm Management, LLC. She made sure it all looked boring on purpose. Clean, legit, nothing flashy. Just enough to keep me protected while I moved behind the curtain. We kept everything in my name, all the documentation, all the bank accounts. The LLC existed for one reason, to hold the title to the lake house. No one in my family was listed anywhere, and once it was up, we made our move. Erin pulled the mortgage records and flagged the exact moment the loan on the lake house fell behind. 2 months earlier. My name was still on it, but the payments hadn't been made since Jenna's business shut down. It was sitting in limbo. No one was talking about it, not even Mom. That told me one thing. They didn't want me to know they were losing it. So we made a quiet offer, through a broker in Erin's firm. No red flags, no personal connections, just a small holding company offering to buy a lake property off a distressed mortgage. They accepted it in less than 3 weeks. No fight, no questions. They were desperate, and they didn't know I was the one behind the offer. For almost a month, I waited in silence. I didn't visit home, didn't take Mom's calls, just checked the mailbox every day like it owed me something. Then one Thursday morning, it came. Thick envelope, registered mail, deed enclosed. Title transferred, fully paid. The lake house was mine. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just sat on my kitchen floor with the envelope in my lap and let the silence fill the room. This was the house they bragged about at every holiday dinner. The one with the dock Dad built with his own hands. The one where Jenna threw her 17th birthday party with 60 people and a live band. The place I'd been told to stay out of during family weekends because I didn't like boats anyway. And now it belonged to me, legally, fully, quietly. I ran my fingers over the edges of the paper. I'd always thought power would feel loud, like some big moment where I'd slam my fist on the table or yell some final truth. But it wasn't like that. It was cold, clean, calm. Aaron called later that afternoon. You good? Yeah. It's done. You own it outright. No strings. Thanks. You sure you're not going to tell them yet? Not yet, I said. Let it sit. She paused. You know, most people would have taken them to court. I'm not most people. They're going to lose their minds. I'm counting on it. After we hung up, I made a copy of the deed, sealed it in an envelope, and stuck it in my desk drawer. No revenge speech, no announcement, just a fact on paper. I didn't need them to know yet. I just needed to know it myself. The house looked exactly the same. Blinking string lights, cinnamon candles, over-decorated tree, and Mom's voice carrying from the kitchen like a stage actor prepping for curtain call. Jenna's bringing that quinoa dish with the roasted squash. Isn't that just the most festive thing? I stepped through the door with one small white box under my arm. No bows, no ribbons. Oh, honey. Mom rushed over with her usual air kiss. You made it! Jenna just got here. We were worried you might not come. Figured I'd show up for the tradition, I said, brushing past her. In the living room, Dad was parked in his recliner like always, half watching the fireplace channel. Jenna sat curled on the couch in a matching knit set, scrolling on her phone. She glanced up. Oh my God, I love your boots, she said. You always wear such, rugged stuff. No thanks. No, how have you been? Just style commentary like we were strangers at a wedding. Dinner was the same as always. Dry turkey, one-sided stories, Jenna's projects center stage. Mom leaned across the table every other bite to brag about Jenna's connections, her creative branding mind, her upcoming trip to Miami. You know, if she plays this right, Mom said, tapping her wine glass, she could be launching her own product line by next spring. Influencers are already circling. I cut my green beans in silence. After dessert, Dad cleared his throat and gestured to the stack of gifts under the tree. All right, let's do this. They passed presents around like it was a commercial. Jenna got a designer coat, a MacBook, and a check from Dad in a red envelope. Oh my God, this is too much, she laughed, holding the check to her chest. You guys are nuts. You earned it, sweetheart, Mom said, wiping a fake tear. When it came my turn, Dad handed me a gift bag with a candle and a gift card to a chain restaurant I hadn't eaten at since high school. Thanks, I said. Then I stood, walked to the tree, and set my white box right in the center. I brought one more. They all looked at it like I'd set down a bomb. Who's it for? Jenna asked. Dad, I said. But it's for all of you, really? He took it without a word, popped the lid, and pulled out the documents inside. At first, it didn't register. Just a flick through pages. Then his hand froze on the deed. On the notarized transfer, on the forged signatures right next to it, his handwriting next to mine, fake mine. What the hell is this? He asked, eyes narrowing. You know exactly what it is, I said. Mom leaned in. Is this a joke? No, I said. It's the deed to the lake house. I bought it. You what? Jenna barked out a laugh. Dad's face flushed deep red. You went through my office. And found the truth, I said. You used my name for years. Mortgaged that property with forged documents. All tied to Jenna's failed business, Mom stood like she'd been slapped. You don't understand how these things work. It was just paperwork. Everyone benefited. I didn't. Jenna looked between them, face twisting. Wait, you used her name? On the condo too? No one answered. I'm not sharing the lake house, I said, calm as ever. Not for weekends, not for holidays, not ever silence. Complete. Total. Then Mom stepped forward. Sweetheart, let's not do this right now. This is Christmas. Don't tear the family apart. You did that a long time ago, I said. I just finally pulled back the curtain. Dad dropped the papers back into the box like they'd burned him. You want to press charges? He said. Go ahead. I'm not pressing anything, I said. I'm just taking what's mine. For once, Jenna opened her mouth but closed it again. The three of them stood there, stunned, blinking like someone had finally cut the spotlight. Good. I walked over to the coat rack like I had all the time in the world, slipped my arms through the sleeves, adjusted the collar. They were still frozen in place. Mom gripping the back of a chair, Dad stiff like someone had cut his power, Jenna hugging herself like she didn't know what side to stand on. I zipped up slow, no rush. Then I looked at them one last time. I'm not giving it back, I said, voice steady. Not the house. Not my name. Not any of it. Nobody moved. I took a breath and opened the front door. The cold air hit like a wall. Sharp, clean, honest. No one followed. No one called out. I stepped outside, pulled the door shut behind me, and walked to my car like I was walking out of a funeral. Except no one had died, and I wasn't mourning. The driveway was quiet, moonlight bouncing off the frost on the hood. I sat behind the wheel, hands resting on the steering wheel, engine off for a second longer than I needed. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like cutting a rope I'd been dragging for too long. I started the car and backed out slow. My headlights lit up the front window, and I saw Mom still standing there through the curtains, still watching, like maybe I'd turn back. Like maybe I owed her something. I didn't. I hit the road and didn't look back again. Half a mile out, I let my shoulders drop. My chest opened up, like I'd finally stopped holding my breath. They could keep their stories, their silence, their perfect little illusions. I didn't want a piece of it anymore. No more favors, no more visits, no more pretending we were something we never were. I didn't care if they called. I didn't care if they didn't. I wasn't crossing that line again. The lake house was quiet, no music, no voices, no boots by the door. Just me, sitting on the old plaid couch with a chipped mug of coffee and the snow falling heavy outside the big window. The living room still smelled like cedar and old fabric. Nothing fancy. The kitchen needed new cabinets. The porch creaked when the wind pushed against it. But it was mine. I sat there in sweatpants and thick socks, wrapped in a blanket I found in the hall closet. My phone was off. No one knew I was here. The snow came down steady, covering the dock, the frozen lake, the faded lawn chairs we used to fight over in summer. They hadn't called, not one of them. And I didn't care. This house wasn't some dream escape. It wasn't even all that comfortable. But it held weight. History, every fight, every lie, every whispered plan that happened around me instead of with me. It echoed here. I didn't feel angry anymore, just done. Done chasing their approval. Done trying to fit inside the space they gave me. I owned this place, legally, fully. And it didn't change who I was. It didn't make me important. It just proved I could take something back. Something they never thought I'd even notice was gone. I stared out at the white sky and quiet trees and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Still, whole. I didn't need the house. I probably wouldn't even keep it. But I'd taken it on my terms, without begging, without warning. And now they could sit in their silence and wonder when I stopped being the easy one, because I wasn't going back.